Right. I want to take this opportunity to welcome members of council, administration, guests, and those who are streaming from the comforts of your home. Welcome to our Tecumseh Council regular meeting. And so roll call, all members of council are present, as well as our senior administrative team that are out there. So I'll call now the meeting to order. And I'll just, there is no closed meeting to report. So we had no closed meetings to deal with this evening. So I'll ask now members of council to, is there a disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda as presented to you this evening? None, and we'll have that reflected in the minutes. And speaking of the minutes, we have the regular council meeting minutes of January 26. And I would like a motion on those minutes. Moved by Councilor Tonio, Councilor Houston, support on those minutes. Any errors or omissions? I hear none. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Those minutes are carried. I don't believe we have any supplementary agenda adoption required this evening. So then we'll move on to delegations, and it certainly gives me great pleasure to welcome our fire prevention officer, Mr. Bob Hamilton, and his lovely wife, Maureen, who's here as well. You know, this is the only problem with COVID and in virtual meetings. We don't have the opportunity to have the face-to-face with all of our staff, especially on very important occasions, whether it's when they first come on board as new hirees or in other situations when they retire. But it is critically important that we do recognize all of our employees who have given so much of their time to our community, and in particular in the service of the community. So Bob, I just want to extend our sincere congratulations to you on your service with the Tecumseh Fire and Rescue. Give you a little bit of history, Bob has been a member of our Fire and Rescue Services team going back to 1978, where he started as a volunteer. He rose through the ranks as captain, district chief, assistant chief, and acting chief. And for the last 20 years of his career, Bob has served our community as the very first fire prevention officer and public education officer. Bob has been an integral in educating our youth on fire safety and prevention, and has helped make Tecumseh a safer place to live. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that in terms of every September, for many, many years now, Bob had initiated our open house in fire prevention. And there is no doubt it has been the envy of many of the fire services throughout the community. And to attest to that, when you host anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000 people in 4 days and families, it is showing the importance. And there's no doubt that fire safety and fire prevention, in teaching our youth and others, whether it's at school or here, is to create an atmosphere and make it fun. And certainly Bob has been able to do that. And the harsh reality is the reduction in terms of, fires and certainly in our community. And the most important, the loss of life due to fires. Bob, it is time, obviously, to look back with pride and satisfaction. No doubt, 43 years you have dedicated to serving the town of Tecumseh. So once again, on behalf of all of us here, council, administration, the residents of the town of Tecumseh, I wish you a very, very happy and well-deserved retirement. As this chapter closes, there's always a new one that opens. And we wish you all the best in the next phase of your life. and by gosh, enjoy every minute of it. And I know you do have family halfway across the world, and maybe other opportunities after COVID-19 to be able to experience, more travel. But most importantly, to your wife, thank you, for giving us Bob for 43 years, and on many occasions, as I've always attested to folks that are volunteer firefighters, it's a 24/7 occupation. And there's many times when you have to leave, you leave birthdays and anniversaries and Christmas and Easter and many other holidays, because when duty calls, when the bell rings, you're there to support. And so without the support of your spouse, it would be very, very difficult to put a 43-year career into fire services. So with that, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to you, Maureen, for being there for Bob and certainly having him the ability to serve our community. So now, yes, I'd like to ask our fire chief, Wade Bondi, as your boss, to also bring greetings on behalf of the fire department.
Thank you, Your Worship. At Bob's request, I'll keep my comments brief. I'm honored to be here today to extend fire services gratitude and thanks to Bob Hamilton as he starts his well-deserved retirement soon. Bob, or as we call him, the Hammer, has been filling a pretty big pair of boots at Station 1 for the past 43 years. Back in 1978, as I was entering grade 3, Bob donned his first pair of coveralls as a volunteer firefighter with Tecumseh, and thus began his career. Over the following years, Bob's commitment, professionalism, and skills served him well, leading to promotions to the roles of captain, district chief, assistant chief, and acting chief with the fire services. Pretty much every role you could have. But Bob really found his niche when he was hired as the first fire prevention officer in 2000, being the history's first for Tecumseh Fire Services. For the past 20 years, Bob has devoted his career to public education in our community, constantly seeking out new and innovative ideas to raise awareness and interest in fire safety among local school kids, and consistently thinking outside the box to bring interactive games and simulated fire tools to students, keeping them motivated and fascinated by his teachings. In addition to his work at schools, Bob was always able to work with local business owners to ensure their buildings adhere to codes and that safety measures are met. Bob has always conducted his inspections with a positive attitude, and as a testament to his abilities, he always walked away with the respect of the business owners. With an amazing 43 years of service to the town, Bob has been an enormous asset to my department and to our community. It is now time for him to hang up his uniform, relax, and enjoy retirement. Bob, before I get to you, I first need to thank someone else, Maureen, your wife. Thank you for your support and patience through all the missed dinners, birthdays, and other events. We certainly appreciate your service to our department. And Bob, thank you for your professionalism, dedication, and your positive attitude. You will certainly be missed at the fire hall. And I hope you don't become a stranger. Our doors are always open. Best of luck in your retirement, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. And now I certainly would like to open up the floor to you, Bob, and maybe some words to the community.
Well, it certainly has been an honor to serve this community, and I've really enjoyed meeting the people the most, the kids, the schools, but the industry as well, because I guess the fire prevention division kind of links everybody together, because we're in there from, and basically we're just tidying up things that hasn't been done in a long time and making them feel like they're part of Tecumseh. And I think that's important. So working alongside many of you over the years has been a great joy. maybe not Rico so much, but no, I loved it. But I had to throw that in there.
Yeah, we understand.
There you go. But we've had a lot of fun over the years, and many of the council members I've worked alongside. It's been great, and it's been my honor to serve. And I think with Chief Bondi at the helm right now, I think the department's looking pretty good. And the next fire prevention officer is going to do well. And I told them that anytime they need information about the town, my phone number is all, I give them all my phone numbers, so they need it.
Not mine.
I'm not worried. So, but anyway, thank you very much for the opportunity, Marion. You and council have always done well for the fire service, and I've said that before to you. And it's just been an honor to be in the service, and grateful for all the councils prior and now for everything you give us in the fire service. So thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Well said. And certainly members of council, I don't know if there's any that would like to speak. Yes, Deputy Mayor Becchetti.
Thank you, your mayor. Bob, on behalf of all of us, I know this is a special night for you. It's not one of those things that you're going to go away. You still have a lot of information that we will need going forward. But what many of you may not know, I've worked with Bob, well, 20 years as on council, but you know, we also look back that we worked together on fire master plans at 3 different Tecumseh schools. Started off at St. Mary's, as that was my very first year as a principal, and Bob was fire prevention officer. And then when I got transferred over to St. Pius for a few years, I worked with Bob there, and now at St. Peter's most recently. It's been nice to work with them on both hats that I wear, my day job and my political life here with being a deputy mayor. But I want to just thank you for your years of service and wish you all the best in your retirement.
Thank you.
Councilor Dowie.
I'll thank your worship, and I say it's a sad day for me to see Bob moving on. Bob left an early impression with me as my school bus driver back at St. Antoine, and but what really shone through was actually what Bob had cited, and that the respect and love for the people of Tecumseh that always was demonstrated. And you know, whenever we've had an individual dealing. That shone through. You know, he was very much Bob very much is a collaborator, someone who has empathy and seeks out the right approach, and that always comes out whenever he's at it. So I want to thank Bob for his extensive service to our community, doing those very things year in and year out. We really do appreciate it and the service you've given. And so I wish you the best success in everything that comes next.
Thank you.
Councilor Tonio.
Thank you, Bob. Just quickly, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for protecting our community and keeping it safe, educating our public, our businesses, especially our children. As you know, Lori, my wife, taught at Pius for 30 years, and she said the kids always enjoyed when you came in and educated them. So thank you very much for keeping our town safe. And Maureen, thank you for sharing your husband with him, and he's all yours now. So.
Oh, thanks. That's why I'm still here.
Councilor Alderhoff and then Councilor Jobin.
Thank you very much, your worship. And through you, Officer Hamilton and Ms. Hamilton, I'm a firm believer, education does so much, and the role you've played in educating the youth and you know, all the folks at Tecumseh really is a very important testament to what we've become. And thank you very much for that, because you know, you were the first. You've laid a great foundation for the future, and protecting you know, lives is really something that's so very important to all of us. So thank you for this very key role, probably one where you don't see as much gratitude and thanks as perhaps warranted. So please take it in now, because I'm sure it's very well deserved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Jobin.
Oh, thank you. Just Bob and Maureen, thank you so much for your years of service, and I wish you all the best and to enjoy each other and reinvent yourselves there, Maureen. That'll be fun. All the best, and thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. And, Bob, certainly enjoy your retirement. I'll echo all of the comments, that we've heard tonight. I didn't have a lot of dealings with you, but I know, in the conversations I had, you were always great to deal with and, very helpful. So I wish you a certainly long and healthy retirement, and certainly all the best.
Thank you.
And I don't know, Margaret, if you, as the CAO, if you've got any closing remarks and.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Bob, we haven't really had a chance to get to know each other for very long, but I've heard great things about you, and I know you've got big boots to fill. Although I understand that you've brought Nicole along very well and that she's a great add to the team. So thank you for your offer of support to continue to, to make sure that she's got herself well established. And I'm sure, like everyone around the two states, it's hard to, it's hard to say goodbye when you've been a part of such a fabulous family. So we hope to see you around, and we hope that we're able to get together in kinder times and without masks, and just, enjoy the company of all of our good people. So enjoy your retirement. All the best to you. Stay healthy, stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you. And there was one saying that a lot of the firefighters were awfully upset with the fire prevention officer because every time I was on the job, they weren't. They didn't like it.
Yes, well, I think it's probably a good thing that you were on the job then.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And again, I just want to, in closing, to extend our best. And again, don't be strangers. It's family, and it's just that moving on to another chapter. And I'm sure that on Fifth Tuesdays, we'll see you certainly at the hall.
Yeah, if I can stay up that late now.
You're not that old yet, but anyway. All the best, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, members of council, we have 23 items of communications here. Could I have a motion to receive the said communications? Councillor Altenhoff, Councillor Dowie. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Members of council, I know there's no communications, I believe, in terms of action required, but I'm going to ask if there's anything that communications that members want to pull. Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. Actually, it's item 11, which is the Source Protection Committee. So the communication did ask us to voluntarily endorse Mr. Webb of the City of Windsor, even though I don't believe our endorsement is required, but it just asks municipal councils are asked to endorse Mr. Webb prior to his formal appointment by the Source Protection Authority. I'm certainly happy to do that if council is so willing.
Yeah, I'll certainly accept that as a friendly resolution that you're prepared to move and accept Mr. Webb, and so do I support on that recommendation. Deputy Mayor Bichetti. Any further questions or comments? Having heard none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried unanimous. Okay.
Your Worship, I did have one other.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Actually, we have a couple that mentioned the Ontario Fire College tonight. And I understand that it is set for closure. There was an article that I read today from Lakeshore, and it referenced that it was predominantly the management staff of the fire services locally that took advantage of the fire college, and that volunteers didn't usually get the opportunity to attend. So I don't feel well informed on this issue. I'm wondering if maybe Chief Bondi could speak to the role of the fire college among our service, and you know, how often we may use their services in a given year.
It's ironic that you asked that question. I think about 4 hours ago, I had a conversation with the chief on that particular issue as well. So certainly I will ask Chief Bondi to certainly respond.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Dowie. We typically don't send our new recruits to the fire college. We've usually utilized the college for the more advanced classes. Typically the fire prevention officer, some of the senior officer classes have gone through there. I recently attended one, it was at one of the regional training centers, but through the fire college. Our volunteers are generally certified by our own staff, the deputy chief and the captains. And then the testing is done with an agreement through St. Clair College, through the proctor system through there. So we typically don't send our new recruits through the fire college itself. Sounds similar to what Lakeshore does.
And I'd be correct in saying as well, Chief Bondi, that after everything is said and done through the training that's received on site here and the examinations at St. Clair College, they have the same requirements as the NFPA, you know, their regulations.
Yes, that's correct. The proctors at St. Clair College are certified by the fire college to do the testing. So,
Councillor Dowie, that's okay. Satisfied? Okay. Then we'll move on to communications. There's no items left. So we'll move on to committee minutes. We do have the Town Tecumseh Business Improvement Area minutes of January 13th meeting. Can I have a motion that those minutes be received or adopted, sorry, be adopted. Councillor Houston moves. Support. Councillor Jobin. Any questions or comments on those minutes? None. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. And next is the Lakeshore Tecumseh Intermunicipal Committee minutes. And if we could have a motion of those meetings be duplicated and delivered to the members and be adopted. Councillor Tonio moves. Councillor Houston support. On those minutes, any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Move on to reports, members of council. The first report is from our Chief Administrative Officer, and it's on the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan update and the forthcoming public consultation opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is for council's information, and we ask that you receive it. It speaks to the original deadline that the community safety and well-being planning process was subject to, and that was January 1st of 2021. Due to the pandemic last year, relief was given with respect to the deadline, and for quite some time there was no new deadline imposed. In recent weeks, the Solicitor General's office has issued a new deadline, and even though there were many who were advocating for the deadline to be January 1st of 2022, a deadline of July 1st, 2021 was imposed. So the roundtable associated with the Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan here in Windsor, Essex has decided to move forward a slightly different timetable. and still aiming now for completion on January 1st, 2022. And we will provide the Solicitor General's office with a draft report in time for the July 1st, 2021 timeline. And the reason for that is that we felt that it was not possible to carry on with this very large planning process across all of Essex County and Windsor, and the ambitious consultation program that they have laid out, and get a good product done for the mid-year deadline. So speaking of public consultation, the table does contain a table, and this has been augmented by through a memo from the coordinator that you would have received yesterday. But this table outlines the upcoming public consultations that are planned for the public to involve themselves in in the planning process and provide their input to the community safety and well-being plan. For the town of Tecumseh, the session, and these are all virtual, of course, online, and they will be posted to the town's website. The town of Tecumseh's session is Saturday, February 27th, 2021, from 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. Members of council and the Police Services Board are welcome to attend, but I did want to make it clear that there will be special consultation sessions planned for the councils within Essex County and Windsor, and that you'll be receiving notice of that before the end of this month, but they're planned for March and April, I believe. Additionally to the opportunity for online engagement through the Zoom platform, there will also be a survey that is launched, and that's anticipated to be launched in the next week or two. And the survey will be open until March the 15th. It will take about 15 to 25 minutes to complete, and anyone who is a resident here can fill out the survey. And so essentially what the plan is trying to gain from public consultation are ideas or concerns with respect to risks in the community that contribute to crime, addiction, suicide, or other negative outcomes, and then generate ideas on how best to address those risks that are identified and who best would be well positioned to address those. So that's kind of the gist of what we're trying to arrive at through the consultation, so that we can address these matters in a more community-based way and provide for the appropriate response depending on the nature of the issue at hand. That is my report to you, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Madam CAO. I just want to add in the conversation as well, Deputy Mayor Bichetti and myself at County Council, we did ask for relief on the deadline of the July and looking at the January 22, and so that's been recorded and sent off, as well as those who participated in the Roma conference as well. There was a session on the community safety plan as well, and it was also AMO's wish as well that the timelines that the provinces has brought forward to do an in-depth type final recommendation. We need an extension to January 22nd. So I just wanted to add that it's not just a request from our local here, it's also across the province, and hopefully in due time or due course, we'll get response back from the Solicitor General's ministry in terms of that extension. So I'm not saying that it will happen, but I feel confident that it will. Any questions on the report itself to our CAO? Then a motion, and that we certainly receive the report that has been presented. Councillor Altenhoff and Councillor Houston. No further questions or comments, and all in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. Second report is prepared by our corporate services and our clerk, and those are the parking lot lease agreement renewal for 12-150 Tecumseh Road, J. Cabal Enterprise, Inc. Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. So this report is seeking some direction from the council in regards to renewal of the lease agreement with Mr. Cable for the parking spots or the parking area which the town leases from him to support the downtown business area. Just as a bit of background and history on this, the town first entered into an agreement with the owner at the time in 1999, the Morans, to lease the parking spaces, as well as a partnership on hard surfacing the area and installing stormwater catch basins. The cost sharing for that was on a 63-37 basis, which was essentially based on the percentages of the parking spaces that the town would be utilizing at that time. In 2018, we also entered into renewals with respect to this agreement in 2010, and when the ownership changed to Mr. Cable in 2009. So we've had several renewals based essentially on the same terms for the past essentially 20 years. And we're looking for a further renewal of the agreement, which expired at the end of 2020. The current owner is seeking some new terms to the agreement, which I will get into in a moment. But just also to mention that the town has obviously has some financial investment in this parking area through the investment in the shared cost to hard surface it and to maintain it. This parking area, which essentially is the parking spots just that are delineated down the center of the property, provide additional parking in the downtown corridor to benefit local businesses and the patrons. It is identified as parking lot 2 by way of signage and benefits the local businesses due to the limited on-street parking in the 1200 block of Tecumseh Road. The parking space allocation supports the objectives of our town CIP, and it provides increased accessibility to patrons to those local businesses. The town has assumed responsibility for the normal maintenance of the parking area, including snow removal, cleaning, and striping, and it's undertaken by our Public Works and Environmental Services Department in conjunction with their other municipal operations. In 2019, 2020, we did some resurfacing, patching, and repair of potholes to this area as well. So the terms that Mr. Cable would like to change in the agreement at this time is the lease payment. He's looking for a payment of $6,990, which is based on $1 per parking space, which there currently are 26 spaces that are delineated. And for each of those parking spaces for each calendar day of the year. And he's also deducted the estimated cost of snow removal being $2,500. He's seeking a lease payment at this time rather than a reimbursement of a portion of the tax levy. So previously there was a calculation done to reduce his taxes by way of a payment in September of each year. Now we've also, in speaking with him, renegotiated the terms for the cost sharing of the maintenance costs, and that would be at a 50-50 cost sharing basis. So we're looking for some direction per council in regards to this renewal and the new terms that Mr. Cable is proposing.
Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. Excuse me there. Sorry, I was having some mouse issues, but the computer kind, not the roading kind. Excuse me. And thank you very much, Worship. But through you to administration, let me ask the obvious question: what other alternatives or options really are kind of available?
If I could defer to either Phil Bartnick, our Director of Public Works, or Brian Hillman, our Director of Planning and Building Services.
Thank you.
Through you, your worship, there are a number of other public parking lots in the area. There is one just located a little bit further west, close to the new BIA location. That's also heavily utilized. And there's also a lot in front of the Legion over on Les Bronx as well, and that gets a lot of traffic there as well.
I think more than that, like the question in terms is that what is the alternative, like in before, the cost factor. So what he's looking at is either it was either reducing his tax commitment to the municipality versus getting cash in hand. And is this what we're, from what I'm getting, is the difference in terms of the arrangement that we've had for the past few years when the Moran family was proprietor of that business. I'm looking for a response from either Phil or Brian or administration, because it's kind of vague in terms of what options we're looking for. Go ahead, Councillor Ottenhoff.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. That's exactly, I think, the point I'm trying to raise. I mean, financially, what was the, what were the dollars and cents kind of in the arrangement before, and what is the, the arrangement, the dollars and cents that are kind of proposed now, which I think there are some numbers in here, perhaps not as clear as I'd like to see them, but also, with these other options that have been noted, what are the financial implications of that as well? I think that's the point, which I think you echoed, Mr. Mayor, is something I kind of like to see a little bit more information. Please. Thank you.
So if I could, Your Worship, the town has invested. So in roughly in 1999, the town invested approximately $17,000 into the works in that area. And within the improvements, there are the repair works that were completed in 2019, 2020. And Phil, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the total cost was somewhere in the range of $10,000, but that was shared on a 6733 basis, so roughly $6,700 at that time. Additionally, over just over almost 20 years, the town has been reimbursing the equal to the tax portion of that area, a taxable portion of that area. So probably somewhere between $15,000 to $18,000 over the years in that respect. So the town has a substantial financial investment in that area for parking support. And so the property owner also, I should mention, has benefited from those works.
I mean, maybe
What exactly are we looking for here? I'm still, are we what is the advantage? Is there an advantage to the owner, to us? What exactly do we want here?
Well, if I may, Mr. Mayor, and just pop in, hopefully I can summarize a bit here. So clearly there's a change in the value proposition that the owner is requesting. So in the past, he has obtained a relief from his taxes, which is in the order of approximately, let's say round numbers, $2,000 a year. The town has also put in and cost shared on capital to the tune of 67% town expenses, 33% his expenses. He's agreed to going to a 50-50 split on those improvements now. We've also taken 3 parking spots out of the mix in terms of paying the $1 a day for 365 days a year, because those fall within the town's easement. So we've reduced that from, there's still 29 spaces there, but we would be paying cash for the 26 spaces. So essentially at that new fee, at that new rate, the net, and by the way, we've also always supplied snow removal and line striping and those types of issues. So essentially, you're looking at a higher, we're paying more. We would be paying more under this. we're looking for council to determine whether or not you wish to continue on with these parking spaces. This is the negotiated offer that the owner has put in front of us. And whilst we haven't done a parking study in this area, the anecdotal evidence is that all of the spaces that we do have in this Tecumseh Road area are utilized and fairly regularly, including this one. But those are based on observation. So I think that kind of summarizes it, although I stand to have either any of you jump in if I've left anything out. Does that help at all?
Yeah, yeah, there's you've added some clarity there, and so that's what I surmise. It was the additional cost. So the question would have been, you know, in those spots themselves, how much of it is from the general businesses? Because every time I go by there, there's a lot of parking spots that are always open. It's never full, and can we justify paying the extra dollars? I know that maybe that parking lot would probably mean more after the streetscaping is all done because of the parking removal on, I think, on the road and so forth moving forward. But so if I'm hearing right from Phil, is that there's still a need for those parking spots. And so forth. So then it's, you know, the amount of work that we've put in and those cost sharing, the snow removal pieces, I think he's getting a pretty good deal as we speak. So
yeah, and certainly that's I'm not going to enter the debate, Mr. Mayor, but I think the staff position is that with the streetscaping, you know, and the improvements along Tecumseh Road, only just sort of starting to take a foothold, that we feel that these parking spaces shouldn't be lost. They will be, you know, I think more expensive to reestablish later on, and as the clerk has outlined, we have skin in the game on these lots over a considerable period of time with the improvements that we have put in. So it may be a bit premature to let them go in favor of the other spots at this time.
okay. Councillor Allenhoff, I think you still had more, and then Deputy Mayor Bichetti.
Yeah, again, and I appreciate, I'm just trying to see, excuse me, I'd like a quantification on, it seems that this next agreement will cost the town more.
Yes.
A number on that, and I want to see what value, I mean, this is, I believe their patrons exploit or use those parking lots. I want to see what value that is to the businesses, because certainly if the agreement doesn't happen, then either we go back to the negotiation table or other things can change. So I'm just trying to get a better feeling for, you know, the field that we're really playing with. Do we have a number? What's the difference between the agreements, the past and the one proposed in terms of funds?
I don't think that we can, I can certainly not pivot that quickly and give you that number off the top of my head. I don't know if the Director of Finance is able to kind of give you a ballpark difference. Tom, I'm going to turn to you for a moment on that.
Thank you, Mark, and through the mayor. So annual payments obviously are going to increase roughly around $4,000 per year. With respect to the maintenance costs, the annual maintenance costs with the cost sharing changing a little bit. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what that might mean annually. Ultimately, I think you're looking at roughly $4,000 to $5,000 increase per year for those spaces.
What percentage does that represent an increase? What's the base? What did we pay last year or in the last agreement per annum?
Yeah, well, so through the mayor and to Councillor Al, so with having the maintenance costs at my fingertips, I couldn't tell you what we're paying as far as cost share for maintenance. The rebate and taxes is roughly $2,000 a year. So it's 2 to 3 times what we're currently paying. Roughly, that's a rough estimate.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor McKetty and then Councilor Dowie.
Thank you, Mayor. When I read the report, I know that parking area does exist. I've used it a couple times when I go for a haircut, but other than that, if that wasn't there, I would have parked at the Legion. And if the Legion wasn't available, I would have went to St. Anne's Church. I think, we can look at other areas and perhaps approach those places. I know the Legion is right now it's closed, it's COVID, but I know we want to think about the future. However, until that Main Street gets done and how we want it, where the other parking spots availability are, the Torino Plaza, when that area gets built up, the need's going to be coming to us, and that property will always be there. And if they're going to ask for a lot more than we're paying today, the wait may be worth it right now, because again, people will be able to find parking along that stretch as it is now. And I think if we do nothing, the question to the clerk is, if we say, no, the town's not interested, we want to keep status quo. If they say, well, then it's not available, we let it go, people will still park there. They're going to have to patrol that. So again, at first I thought, you know what, we need to save it, let's pay whatever he wants. But the more I read that, the more I was listening to the debate here, I think there's ample spots for the needs of today. And like I say, going back, we've got the Legion. We can approach St. Anne's Church and ask if they're willing to, because again, their services are certain times of the day, aside from funerals. But, if you mention something about snow removal, they'll be the first to accept that, because again, that would be revenue for them. So I'd like to see our administration maybe go back and kind of, say status quo of, okay, let's sign here. If not, let's look at that vicinity and kind of do a survey of where other places that we can gain those spots. Because like the mayor said, a lot of those spots are empty when you drive by. So that's just my thought.
Before I go to Councilor Dowie, what is the net spaces there? There's 3 businesses that use, 3, I believe 3, could be 4, but there's at least 3 businesses that have the use of that parking lot. So how many net actual spots are we talking about? It says 20 something and so forth. But, I look at the lot itself, it looks like it's 26 total for everything. And so how many net spots are we talking about?
Through your worship, we're looking at 26 parking spots released by the town.
There's 26 spots in that little area.
Yes, and it's not just those businesses that I guess immediately abut up to the property. It's for other businesses in that area.
No, I know why the parking lot is there. I get that. But I'm just saying, maybe Brian, you can help me out here. Usually a business, if you have a business and you got to have the X number of spots of the square footage of the business and so forth. So you've got the rental place at the back, you've got the little restaurant, used to be Legends, now it's something else. You got the seamstress on the other side. Then you got Buckingham on the other side, and they might have a few spots, maybe right behind the building, and so forth. But I have got a hard time to say that we got 26 spots there. But anyway, maybe there are. Maybe they're all minis, I don't know. But
through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just in response to your question. So it is always a challenge. Well, that's a little clearer. It is always challenging in a downtown setting for everyone to have individual on-site parking. And so my understanding on the history of this property was that it did provide an opportunity for the town through limited expense to have some availability of public parking. It is posted as public parking. My understanding is that the business immediately to the east has a sufficient parking on site. And the parking at the rear in relation to the automotive use, Mr. Cable's property, he has parking partially there for his use, and there's a small business at the front. And this parking is really historically, and we had done a traffic study many years ago, and then we've been watching it as time has gone on through the development of the the strategic design for the streetscape design. That it does have pretty solid utilization, but that it tends to, in talking to the other business owners, it's spillover for a lot of businesses in the area. And it's sort of, you could draw a little bit of a circumference around this district within probably 300-400 feet in both directions. Those seem to be the cars that are using it. And ideally over time, what the CIP is trying to achieve is the yellow lines that you see here going north and south are actually an alley. They're an alley on an old registered plan owned by the municipality. And then it's interestingly pink 2 lines that go east and west over towards to the west there. That is also part of an alley on an old plan, actually owned by the municipality. And in discussions with our solicitor, has been confirmed that in fact we have title to that. And over time, the intention is that those would be more clearly identified as public access points so that we can get connections to the rear of some other properties over to the west. So there is a relationship the town has with this owner to a certain extent. And the discussion we've had to date is the part of the laneway that traverses north and south, and you can see there's a white vehicle just parked on it up at the top end there, that actually would be transferred to some of the 2 abutting owners over time. And then we would get an alley extended over to the east to connect to the rear of some of the properties. Because there's common with these areas, there's been an evolution of use of the land apparently over time. And as this land redevelops through the CIP process, when the redevelopment happens, it will be timely to get some organization to it. So this is very much an interim step. I can't speak to the specifics on the financial side because that's not been my involvement, but certainly we do view this as an important asset to this downtown area. And are hopeful we can come to some terms that are acceptable, basically.
Well, it's ironic, Mr. Hillman, that, when you look at what you said, the alleyway and those lines, there's 6 spots there that are owned by the town, not the owner, if you want to be technical, I guess. And the alley actually connects into our lot, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. That, through you, Mr. Mayor, that is correct.
Wow, I don't know. You wonder if if it's there for the extension of all those businesses. I wonder what the BIA should be involved in this as well. But I mean, if it's needed for if it's needed, it's needed. But it's ironic that agreement was negotiated back in the day and now this guy wants, obviously I can see it's an opportunity for him to drive income.
May I, Mr. Mayor? Just
Yeah, go ahead. I'm
so
just trying to make sense.
Yeah, no, we currently lease 63% of the parking lot. What if we negotiate just for keepsake or a relationship sake, 50% or something? What if we just negotiate the ratio so there's still a healthy relationship, but still, being responsible of the use and how much it's utilized and our expenses into it? A compromise, so to speak.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I mean, realistically, when it isn't, to me, it's more of a principle. It's not the money.
Yeah.
The money is not, I mean, it's not earth shattering. It's not like we're talking 20, 30,000 or 40,000 and so forth. But I guess now I didn't know the extent of the lot, the way it was done, and with it, I'm a little surprised that we had 26 spots that we're more or less responsible for, or more or less renting. I mean, I'll leave it up to council, well, you know, whatever, at the end of the day, and I think Council Dowie had his hand up there. He's been patient.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question for administration. So just through this discussion, I think I've heard predominant support for retaining this parking lot from the administration, but the recommendation doesn't, because it's giving it to council for direction and not an outright recommendation to accept. I'm wondering if that could be elaborated upon as to why it's more ambivalent in terms of the recommendation.
Sure, I can do that through the mayor to council. Because it represents a significant change in terms, administration was reticent to make a strong recommendation one way or the other. This is primarily the offer of the landowner. And I think administration has sort of done what they can to counter that, which is where the 50-50 split on the capital improvements came from. And of course, netting out the town's snow removal costs on an annual basis. So in the event that council wanted to direct us to pursue other options, such as further negotiation of fewer spots or go back to the drawing board. We too were a little bit taken aback by the change in terms. However, I think it is a struggle between the change in terms and losing this parking lot altogether, because it's very well situated for the use of the patrons on Tecumseh Road, and with all of the activity happening on Tecumseh Road presently, a lot of renovation, some new commercial entities. We felt that we'd bring it for council's consideration, because replicating that kind of parking may not be very easy to do, or certainly may not be done at the same rate as even what is being proposed here.
Okay, thank
Locked
you.
in for 5 years.
And just maybe two follow-ups. So one, Business Improvement Association likely will have a lot to say. I'm wondering if they have given a comment so far. And second, is the opinion of the administration that there's no further negotiation to be had?
Turn that over to the clerk to respond.
We certainly can reach out to the owner. He was pretty adamant in our discussions with him on what he was looking for as far as the lease payment.
And I think the answer to your first question with respect to the BIA is no. We wouldn't typically consult with the BIA on an agreement renewal for town business.
No, I understand, but it's patronizing the business that it's helping the businesses. And so it's their association. The snow removal piece, do we do the whole parking lot or just our 26 strips?
Phil, can you respond?
Yes, thank you through your mayor. It's my understanding that the Parks Department does clear the parking lot, but it would only be those parking spots. The owner was looking at trying to extend that onto his private property as well, but I think we're sticking with what has traditionally transpired with respect to winter maintenance.
No, maybe we do the rest of the parking lot. We charge him.
Well, what if we needed status quo at this time? Maybe, I don't know, what's the direction here? Because we're I feel like we're bouncing around. So if we need it for future purposes, or do we want to go back and negotiate?
You know what? I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, and now that I've got a little bit more information and so forth, I need to maybe to sit on this for, and bring it back in 2 weeks' time, defer it, and then, um,
I think there were a couple of members of council, Mr. Mayor, who still had some outstanding questions, please.
oh, Mayor Tonio, you got a race on this one.
Not yet.
Councilor Tonio.
Just question, the other businesses, I'm sure all around there that have we discussed with them if this lot was not there, would it affect their businesses? Do a lot of their customers use that? That's the question I would have on top of all of this is how, if we gave up this parking lot to this gentleman, he could technically fence it in, correct? And use it as he wishes. It's his property. And then how would that affect all the other businesses that are adjacent to that within half a kilometer, let's say? That's the question I would have in all this.
Again, through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe we have done any kind of survey of businesses in the area leading up to this, as we wouldn't normally in terms of an agreement renewal.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'll just echo the comments of Councilor Tonio. You know, if we are going to, you know, make any change here, you know, I certainly think that the abutting businesses, you know, those that would utilize this, you know, should be, you know, consulted, and we should have some of their feedback. So, you know, at the end of the day, I think the spaces are utilized, and, you know, having, I guess, a little more information of overall utilization, and, you know, if this were to go forward 5 years time, I mean, who knows where we'll be with the CIP, but I guess the one question, it's a yearly term, you know, for 5 years, and we're paying the you know, close to $7,000 a year net of snow removal. Is there anything protecting the agreement or the spots should a development come forward, and, you know, would we lose these outright, or do these spots hold and utilize the, you know, that property in its use until the term of the agreement?
So if I may, Your Worship, agreements generally state clauses that the agreement will carry forward to any other transfers, heirs, successors, or assigns. So the agreement would hold true for, so if there's another purchaser down the road or within those 5 years, that agreement would inure to that a new owner.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I, you know, I would say, you know, I'm not sure, you know, much will, you know, change in a couple of weeks, but I think if we were going to do a big change, you know, with this, those businesses, you know, should be consulted, and, you know, if anything, you know, if we reduce the term of the agreement when it comes up for negotiation again, we could be opening ourselves up to, you know, again, higher price. So, you know, maybe we move forward with it. We've got the spots for 5 years. We'll know more where the CIP sits, and then, you know, we'll be able to have a little more consultation with the neighboring businesses, giving us the time to figure out, you know, do we need less spots? Do we, you know, do something? So, you know, just, you know, some thoughts and comments.
Well, then, you know, I like the idea of deferring it for 2 weeks. Have a conversation with the BIA, have the BIA survey the businesses there and see if there is an impact to those. I can remember when, you know, asking folks at the time when we wanted to remove parking spots on Tecumseh Road, there was a couple of them, and people just went, oh my gosh, you know, you can't do that, and so forth. In the CIP, Mr. Hillman, in the CIP, do we have, now that we're going, we're shrinking the road and so forth, we are looking at on-street parking, aren't we?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Yes, the CIP does include as a design component, both in the CIP policy document as the community improvement plan speaks to a total reconfiguration of the street to have on-street parking. Then that's been taken to the next step, which is the streetscape design, detailed design exercise that's been going on for the last number of years. And it's looking at that corridor having on-street parking, other than where we have shifts in the lanes coming up to intersections and so on. But it would be complete with on-street parking throughout both sides of the road.
Yeah, and I do believe as we've been developing the sites as well, now we've been requiring parking for those new businesses, whether it was like Frank's and Oven 360, all of those. So I guess my suggestion would be, okay, fine. If we were to move ahead with the agreement, but I would like to have a termination clause in there that 6 months notice or a year, whatever, added to it so that when we start seeing parking, coming on street in other areas, then we're not locked in for 5 or 10 years or beyond. Go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And I think a couple of critical things have come up from these discussions. One is it's unfortunate we really don't have much input from the surrounding businesses. And I think if this does go to a deferral, if there could be some input from them to see what value that lot brings to them and their business, I think that will help us make this decision much easier. The other thing, which I think is quite important for me, certainly I think the town has articulated that this is important for the town. I hear it. But also, I don't think we have a very specific dollar figure number on how much the increase is. Mr. Kitsos kind of gave us a good estimate to 2 to 3 times what it currently exists. That seems kind of high, from a jump. Can there be other points of negotiation? I think, Mayor, you brought up the concept of perhaps taking care of the total area for snow plowing and so forth. But is there other areas, to better negotiate? I hope we can see more information on this so it can help us, our decision to be a little bit easier. But right now, I'm sorry. I think there's a lot of lacking information, and especially the input from the surrounding businesses that would really help with this. Thank you.
Okay, we've beaten this one pretty good, and
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
I would suggest, we are in a situation here where the current agreement has expired, but we'll take direction from council to defer for a couple of weeks and go back to the owner to express concerns and see if there's any concession, as well as canvassing I can commit that we could at least canvass the BIA. I'm not sure that, how many individual businesses will be able to do within that space of time, especially under the current conditions. When businesses are closed down, it may not be that easy to reach them, but we can certainly call on our friends at the BIA to render an opinion on the use of that parking space. And we can also look at such things as the term and your suggestion for a termination clause as well.
yeah, I'd like to see that. And then I think some of the businesses in the area as well. I mean, when the restaurant was there, when Legend was there, yes, I could see, when they had 10 or 15 patrons at a time, parking spots were eaten up. But that's not the case anymore. And now it's a one-off. Somebody goes in, picks up a ready-made meal and then leaves and so forth. But again, I see that parking lot more on the empty side than the full side. And so, again, if we were to make the decision, I would like the business, at least the BIA, give them some part of this and say, yeah, it is needed and so forth. And then we can make a judgment call down the road when we improve the roadway and more on-street parking. And as more development occurs, if there's more commercial development that will be there, as you know, there'll be parking. It'll be required, as well. So I do understand fully for to build a municipal lot, and that is extremely expensive. I don't know if it's 25 or 30,000 a parking spot. I understand that. So, I'm like this right now, kind of weighing and saying, I don't want to give it up, but it's almost like we're held at ransom. And I know it's not, the money itself, it's not the end of the world in terms of but it's just the thought that I don't want to be locked in for a long time when the future is going to make a decision in terms of, whether we need it or not. And so I think administration should have, I think you've got a picture in terms, and I don't recommend, we sit on this for a long time. Obviously the owner is probably itching to get things resolved in that, but I think a little bit of work from the BIA to go knock on a few doors or some phone calls to the business community and see how important it is to them. And then to come back and then, I think it'd be a good thing to do. Councillor Dowie?
Thank you, Worship. So I know we're getting towards a point where we have to make a decision, and I guess the big question mark on my mind is, we seem to have a fair amount of supply of parking. 2 properties to the west, we have our own lot, but that one seems to be deserted as well. And I guess perhaps this issue will prompt us to take a broader look at off-street parking in this corridor. This lot, the leased lot, is, I would call it, a more desirable place to park. It's wide open, it's bright, the pavement is in better shape, and it's closer to the road as well. So I think I'm expecting the BI's answer will be, we want you to keep it. Not only is it, arguably taking the costs away from businesses to provide their own parking, but it's also just a more desirable and central place to park. So I have a feeling we will get feedback asking us to retain the spot, but perhaps it can trigger another question as to whether we need the other lot, and or look at some sort of rethink of our parking supply in this corridor. So with all that, I certainly do want to get some feedback. If nothing comes, nothing comes. But I am certainly supportive of getting some feedback from the business community as to what parking supply is needed, and further, we didn't. I'm not inclined to say yes, I want to support this this lease agreement, because I think it's not something that is in my view an equitable partnership for the use of this property. So I'm also inclined to ask for a subsequent negotiation, and if it gets rejected, it gets rejected, and then we'll know, and then we'll be able to make more firm commitments on that. So I'm happy to make a motion to that effect, if that's seen to be in keeping with what you've suggested, Mayor.
Yeah, no, I think that would be appropriate, and I'd be willing to entertain that.
So, okay, so I guess I'll craft the motion that Tecumseh Town Council first respond to the owner with an attempt at further negotiation, acknowledging that we're not accepting of this offer, number one, and number two, that the Business Improvement Association be requested to provide a response in time for our next meeting with respect to the importance of this lot and the existing parking supply on the corridor.
Yes, Margaret.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I could seek some clarification, I would take it from Councillor Dowie's first part of the motion, that reads to me as though you're rejecting what is presented to you today. And I would suggest perhaps that a deferral of what you see today in an effort to refine the arrangement would keep your options open for 2 weeks from now.
Okay, well, that's very fair. If there is a means to achieve a better outcome by deferring, then perfect. And then certainly that's that's in keeping with my intention.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, it's I'm sure that negotiations or whatever, he wants closure. There's no question, and we need some clarification moving forward. So I would believe, Madam CAO, we've got enough information administratively. So just a motion to defer would suffice at this time, and then to come back with the report in next meeting.
Through you, Your Worship, if I may, if we could have the motion that CS 2021-03 entitled Parking Lot Lease Agreement Renewal 1215 Tecumseh Road, J Cable Enterprises Inc. be deferred to the February 23rd, 2021 regular meeting of council as the motion. And we've heard the direction of council with regards to the other discussions that have gone on this evening for consultation.
Yep. I think that sounds good. I think that's it. Isn't that what Councilor Dowie just said? Or?
Right on.
Yeah. So then move to defer. Councilor Dowie and Councilor Altenhoff support. No further discussion. Then all in favor. Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you. Okay, planning and building services, site plan control agreement on the Skyline Real Estate Holding. That's the east side of Southfield Drive. Mr. Hillman.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Before council is a report summarizing 3 site plan agreements, and they relate to a property that's on the south side of Tecumseh Road, just east of Southfield. There are 2 existing buildings owned by Skyline Real Estate Holdings, and they are just south of Tecumseh Road. And thank you, Sean. And then to the south of that, they also own a land holding that shows 2 4-story buildings. And if we go to the next attachment, thanks, Sean, you'll see that there is an overlay of the site plan, which is the lighter white area that shows as new parking in the buildings. And just to summarize, this went through a fairly significant planning process some time ago with this council, an official plan and zoning amendment, which clearly established the long-term use of the land for residential purposes. The owners have now filed applications with the municipality for site plan approval, which has the effect of laying out these 2 buildings, which are really oriented towards the north side and the east side of Southfield Park. So basically, they'll create a bit of an enclosure around the park. They're 4 stories each. Parking is along the north and east side of the buildings. And in addition, there is to the south a piece of land that was transferred to the municipality by Skyline, and on it they will be constructing a new connection from Arbor Street and to the west into Southfield Park as part of the redevelopment of their site. In addition, if we just shift to the north slightly, these parking lots are designed in a manner, and agreements have been put in place that will allow cross access between the parking areas so that one will be able to travel from the new development area northerly and exit onto Tecumseh Road, or enter at that spot to this site or out to Southfield. If we continue slightly to the north, Sean, if we could, you'll see that there have been 2 entrances closed at Tecumseh Road, which was the subject of some discussion previously with council and the public on these matters. And so the agreements speak to the closure of those driveways and some enhancements to the existing driveways And finally, if I could just take note, along Southfield Drive, there's currently a chain link fence that really delineates the perimeter of the properties. That is proposed to be removed, and tree plantings are proposed entirely along that the side of the property. So at the end of the day, we really do feel that the development to the south of the 2 apartment buildings and 142 housing units, the improvements up at Tecumseh Road and the improvements along Southfield really offer a significant residential development to the town, but also some improvements to the existing streetscape in that area and some of the interactions with Tecumseh Road. So before council are the agreements and the site plan for your consideration, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
I do have one, Mr. Hillman, on the, as you know, the intersection itself, there's, there has been some noise, I guess you could say, on the difficulty in making left-hand turns. And now that we've got Gateway being built and now these 2 units to the south, and then the reconfiguration, I think it's a good idea in terms of the driveways at the front part. Is there any consideration on left turning lanes?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, well, what I can indicate is that both Gateway and Skyline had completed traffic studies. Both of the studies indicated that the intersection continues to operate at an acceptable level. Now, going forward, Mr. Bartnick would have to speak to if longer term there is some identified need for a dedicated left turn lane there. And off the top of my head, I don't recollect what the CIP was identifying for that area. I know there are some improvements identified long term for that, but certainly the traffic studies that were prepared and reviewed by the town and our peer review did not at this time identify a left turn lane dedicated westbound.
Yes, Mr. Bartnick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to further comment on Mr. Hillman's comments there. So the ultimate build out of the proposed streetscaping plan did identify a reduction down to 2 lanes in each direction with on-street parking. The Southfield intersection specifically had 2 dedicated left turn lanes in the east and the west directions with a single lane through the intersection. So I think as these developments come online and traffic patterns start to present themselves, it's definitely something we can keep our eye on and see if we can do some interim measures, prior to the ultimate works being completed, whether that's by means of smaller physical improvements or even line painting as well.
So it's just as we move forward, obviously we'll have an opportunity to see how this all works into play. My biggest, I guess, concern would be because 142 units on one side and 97 or 100 units, so that's 247 units in that particular area. I mean, I get it; they're not all going to be leaving at the same time and so forth, but at least we'll have an opportunity to make those adjustments, I guess, as the CIP and the improvements to the roadway in the future. Any further? Yes, go ahead, Councilor Tonio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to hear about the traffic studies and reading about the traffic studies. It's important for that area, I believe, especially policing it for years. Southfield is a busy road and traffic concerns are strong there and justified there, I believe. And I also like the fact how you're changing the trail there. So what I would like to say is I'm happy with the administration and the developer that they listen to our citizens and their concerns, and a lot of these have been addressed, changing the trail away so it's not stuck in a corner anymore to go through. So good job. I like how it's looking, and thanks for all your work, and thanks for listening to our citizens.
Yeah, I think a lot of work has gone into this. Yeah, I certainly want to commend administration for their, their input, and it seems that Skyline have been, great to work with, and which is, certainly good news for us. And I think the really exciting part for the community is And something that we've been asking for a long time is diversity in housing, and especially on the rental side of things. And it's going to create some real welcome vacancies and opportunities for the community. So this project is really very timely, and particularly when we look at real estate and the affordability factor, I think is huge. And so all in all, I think this is a terrific project. If there's nothing further, it's then if I could have a motion that that the bylaws authorizing the execution of Skyline Real Estate Holdings, number 1, 2, and 3 Inc. site plan control agreements, satisfactory in the form of the town's solicitor, which agreements recognize the existing 2 apartment building properties, associated driveway improvements located at 11873, 11917 Tecumseh Road, and allow for the construction of 2 new 4-story, 71-unit apartment buildings totaling 142 dwellings, units, associated parking, landscaping, on-site services, and works on a 1.71 hectare, 4.22 acre parcel of land situated on the east side of Southfield Drive, immediately north of Southfield Park, better known as 1200 and 1250 Southfield Drive, be adopted and subject to the following occurring prior to the town's execution of the 3 apartments. The final stormwater management design and stormwater management calculations and associated site service drawings be approved by the town. And 2, the owner executing the 3 site plan control agreements. And 3, the owner posting security for performance pursuant to paragraph 6.1 of the agreements, and that the execution of such further documents as are called for by the site plan control agreements approved above, including but not limited to the execution of the acknowledgement direction required to register the site plan control agreements untitled to the lands and such other acknowledgements, directions for any related transfers of real estate property registrations contemplated by the site plan control agreements, and be signed by the mayor and clerk, be authorized. Moved by Councilor Tonio, supported by Councilor Jobin. Any further questions or comments? All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried unanimously. And B, the Planning and Building Services 2021-03 CIP report, DC Grant Skyline Apartments, East Side Southfield. Do you want to speak on that, Mr. Hillman, or it's pretty straightforward? I didn't chase you away, did I? There we go.
I apologize, Mr. Mayor. I was disconnected there for a moment. Sorry, I was disconnected, Mr. Mayor. Is it on to this report?
Yes, just a brief overview,
Apologies.
Brian.
Yeah, I apologize. The joys of internet. So this is the same property, Mr. Mayor and Council, and it is an application that's been filed against the Community Improvement Plan, and the property owner is seeking the development charge grant program, which is available to all developments within the area, which meets certain criteria, and it allows for a rebate of $100,000 on the development charge. And sorry, I have through this whole process of losing my connection, lost the DC that will be paid on this site. So if we just go down slightly, Sean.
I believe it's 1.4 million.
Yes, thank you. So this is $100,000 is a considerable amount. It is an incentive that is available through the CIP program, and only through the CIP program that's been passed under the Planning Act. But it certainly is a considerable development charge that.
Yeah, there it is right there, 1.4.
Yeah. 1.4 million, yes. So so the application has been filed and it's put to council for consideration, and we are recommending approval. And I did want to just note, Mr. Mayor, that in our discussions with this developer, it has been, as you indicated when we were dealing with the last report, a very good team to work with. They were available this evening if there were questions. And it has been a, quite a significant effort to bring this forward in a timely manner. And I know that they want to commence construction as soon as possible. So we're very pleased that one of the things they have spoken to is the CIP program that is available and drew them to the site. It's something they've been sitting on for a considerable period of time. So we're really quite pleased and feel again some, recognition of the value the CIP program has offered to our some of our builders in our town, but also to the community in a broader perspective. I think this is important housing that's being brought to the town and being made available. So that's the application in front of council. And I believe there was reference to a further CIP application that will be coming forward in the coming weeks to council for consideration for this property as well. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Okay, so we are looking for a motion that the grant application for the Tecumseh Road Main Street Community Improvement Plan Financial Incentive Program for this vacant property known as 1250 Southfield Drive, immediately north of Southfield, be deemed eligible and approved for the Development Charges Grant Program in the amount of $100,000 in relations to the construction of 2 4-story 71-unit apartment buildings proposed for the subject property, all of which is in accordance to section 11.35 of the CIP and with the Planning and Building Services 2021-03, and that the construction timeline requirements for the proposed development be extended from 1 year to 2 years in accordance with section 11.35 of the CIP and with the Planning and Building Services 2021-03. Members of council, moved by Councilor Tonio and supported by Deputy Mayor McKetty. Any further questions or comments on the report? All in favor? Oppose if any? That is carried. Thank you, Mr. Hillman. Public Works, Environmental Services. We have well, I think you'd want to bring this, and that's the projects, the resiliency project between, it's an agreement, and I believe that's part of the flood mitigation grant, the 11.7 or 10.7 million. And so it's an agreement for the climate change flooding resiliency project between Her Majesty the Queen and Right of Canada, as represented by the Minister of Infrastructure and Communities Canada and the Corporation of the Town of Tecumseh in the form satisfactory to the town solicitor, financial content satisfactory to the town's CFO, and technical content satisfactory to the town's engineer for the grant received from the Disaster Mitigation and Adaptation Fund for the flood resiliency project that includes the following. 1, the construction of a new consolidated Scully and St. Mark's pump station and a Riverside Drive trunk storm sewer. 2, a decommissioning of the existing St. Mark's storm pump station. And 3, construction of the new Peter J. Cecile pump station. And that the town's portion of the total project cost being 16.05 million of the total 26.75 million be funded through a combination of life cycle stormwater reserves and debt with up to 50 million of debt incurred to be incurred. And maybe if I could ask before I ask for a motion in support, maybe Mr. Kitsos, if you can explain the requirement up to 15, but certainly I believe in your more in-depth report, you did basically, as we build the life cycling fund, as this project is 5 or 6 years into the making, the 15 mil doesn't mean necessarily we're going to bore 15 million for the project. Am I correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, you are correct. We say up to 15 million because we do have other storm-related projects, capital projects on the horizon. So we're aware that Manning Road Phase 2 and Phase 3 are coming up, and those have a significant storm component to them. So, looking out 7 years, hard to project what our storm reserve will be. So in particular, because our annual allocation is currently around $1.2 million a year, and we've got a target of $2 million per year. So we want to work towards increasing it on an annual basis. But of course, that is up to the budget process, the annual budget process. So we can't really predict what the annual allocation will be next year or the year beyond that. So as it stands now, our storm life cycle reserve is about $1 million in the hole. So we anticipate we'll likely need the bulk of the 15 million to go ahead with this project, mainly on the timing basis, because it is a significant cost and we do have a lot of storm projects really all at once.
Okay, thank you. So then on the motion, members of council. Moved by Councillor Altenhoff, Councillor Houston, support. Any further questions or comments on the report? Then all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Thank you. All right, the second report is also prepared by our Public Works Environmental Services 2021-06 Food and Organic Waste Management Plan. The motion is that the report from PWES 2021-06 Food and Organic Waste Management be received for information. Moved by Councillor Altenhoff and Councillor Jobin. On the report, any questions or comments? Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually want to thank the administration for quite an interesting report on what our options are going forward. And so I think when this comes back, it's very clear what the decision will be upon us. Do we create that depot style of pickup, which is the least that we could do, or do we do one better, match what larger municipalities do and provide a curbside collection? So undoubtedly, there are other municipalities that are in the same boat as us, and I certainly look forward to hearing the pros and cons of both of those circumstances as we go forward.
Yeah, and there'll be more information. I know I do sit on a waste management committee, and there had been some debate to date, members of council, and certainly there will be a lot more as the new committee will be struck and how this will certainly move forward. But I think this is again something that the provincial government has been really monitoring, and certainly 2025, it's not too far around the corner. So if we are to, really be serious about reducing greenhouse gases and methane gas into the atmosphere, this is the type of programs that to help. But stay tuned. A lot of information yet to come, and new and emerging technology as well. And so certainly some exciting times ahead. So with that, on the report, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Next, the third report from Public Works is the supply of various vehicles. And I don't know if Ms. Bartnick, I see Mr. McArdle is here as well. I don't know if you want to bring that forward, but there is a list here, and that's all part of the life cycling replacement of known vehicles and equipment for the coming 2021 year. So on that, is there okay, Mr. Bartnick?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to maybe give a brief highlight of the report. So the purpose of the report that we're requesting authorization to proceed with obtaining quotes for the 2021 various vehicles. I believe there's 12 in total, which also includes backhoes, as well as some trailers in that list. We're also seeking to have to declare the list of equipment and surplus to dispose of them as outlined within our purchasing bylaw. The report also seeks that the attachments, which are Appendix A and Appendix B, be adopted by Council. Appendix A is the 10-year fleet funding and replacement schedule. Appendix B is the 10-year fire and rescue services apparatus funding and replacement schedules. So the total, so funding for the 2021 various vehicles as outlined in Appendix A, total $738,000, which also includes detailing and of those vehicles and ensuring that the appropriate equipment is placed within them. That would be funded from the fleet vehicle reserve. And the report's also seeking approval for funding for the 2021 various vehicles as outlined in Appendix B, totaling $215,000 from the life cycle fire apparatus reserve. And this would be subject to confirmation of approval of the town's ISIP COVID resilience stream grant application, which was recently discussed in the CAO's report 2021-03, which I believe came to council within the last number of meetings here. And that one specifically is related to the high water rescue vehicle that the town was looking at purchasing. But if there is any questions on the report itself, I'll be happy to answer any, as well as our manager, Kirby McCardle, who is the subject matter expert. He's here as well to assist. So.
All right, any questions or comments to either Mr. Bartnick or Mr. McCardle at this time? Okay, a motion to adopt the report. Deputy Mayor Becchetti, Councilor Houston. The only thing is that make sure that our local dealerships are well versed on the RFP process. I'm a firm believer of supporting local, and then you know, and moving forward. So with that, if there's no further questions or comments, then all in favor, oppose if any, that is carried. Okay. Move on to the final, I believe the final report, or no, we got two more reports from Public Works, Environmental Services. This one here is our 2020 inspection of our water distribution system report. And if I could have a motion of that the Ministry of Environment, Conservation, Parks Inspection Report Tecumseh Water Distribution dated December 7, 2020 be received. And it's nice that it's in order and clean and 100% compliant. So you're off the hook, Mr. Dupree. So moved by Councillor Altenhoff and supported by Councillor Tonio. Any questions or comments? Go ahead, Councillor Altenhoff.
Just congratulations, through your worship, excuse me, congratulations to the staff and everyone, all administration, ensuring that we're getting 100%. We always have to strive for that. This is a critical resource for all of us, and hats off to it. Great job. Thank you.
All right, very good. Yes, so you want to echo Councillor Altenhoff, and just congratulations. And water is a very precious commodity. You want to make sure that we meet all the standards. So on the report, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Thank you very much. And I believe the final report is the annual summary again. The distribution system. So this is part of the The distribution annual summary reports, and it's that the annual summary reports of the town, Tecumseh Water Distribution System for the year 2020 be as prepared in accordance with the Safe Drinking Water Act, Regulation 170-03, Schedule 22 summary report be adopted. Councillor Altenhoff and Councillor Houston on the report. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, bylaws. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that, Your Worship.
No,
We
that's usually my problem.
We have two bylaws on the agenda this evening. The first is in regards to the appointment of members to the Property Standards Committee. We have a new member joining the committee with the resignation of one member, and we're respectfully asking for first and second readings to that bylaw, and if appropriate, third and final.
All right, two readings of bylaws. Councillor Tonio and Councillor Altenhoff. Any questions or comments on the bylaws? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that's carried. Third readings in order. Third readings in order. Councillor Altenhoff, Deputy Mayor Ricchetty. All in favor? Opposed, if any, it's carried. Then we'll move on to unfinished business. Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Your Worship. It isn't listed, but I just wanted to let anyone watching know that 1 year ago, we brought forward and asked to go to Policies and Priorities Committee with respect to a review of Riverside Drive and the consideration of snow removal on the south side, consistent with other arterial roads who would have both sides of the road with snow removal. So that hasn't been forgotten. I just wanted to just let the audience know it's still with the staff, and it will come ultimately. Certainly, there's been a lot going on, and so this didn't jump to the top of the queue, but it's still in the works.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Any further unfinished business? New business? Councillor Jobin, Councillor Houston, Councillor Altenhoff.
It's just basically to inform council. There's been some off-roading activity at Weston Park. So our director, Paul Anthony, and his team have gone out there and they put up some barriers so the cars can't enter off of the road. But at the same time, area residents have addressed some suspicious behavior, late night parkings, just suspicious behavior. So I've already notified our police department to do periodic checkings, and Mr. Anthony and the parks are gonna maybe see what other options we have. So it's more just for your information.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that forward, Councillor Jobin. I believe Councillor Houston.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really just wanted to give a thanks to Public Works. I had about a handful of calls just regarding some snow removal, questions, and, administration and, Public Works was able to resolve those rather quickly. So all the homeowners who I had spoken to are extremely happy. So just want to say, thank you to everyone who was involved.
The only ones that are not happy are the snowmobilers. They clean the streets too quickly. Councillor Altenhoff, Councillor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, to, I guess, echo, the point that was raised. I know I had some discussions with Mr. Bartnick in the recent times about some clearing. as well as some traffic issues. And I really appreciate the attention, the details that he provides to our residents. In the email that I received, the appreciation letter really from the resident, he really appreciated some of the actions that were brought forth by administration. So you know, I wanted to bring that forth, as well as just kind of articulate somewhat the good news of the announcement of a public school, or at least a site kind of identified for a future public school from the Greater Essex County District School Board. So I think that's good news. I think it'll help you know, the area, and certainly with the neighboring schools and educational institutions nearby, really maybe hopefully establish it as a very strong educational hub for the area. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. And just based on, we had an earlier conversation about the organics collection and solid waste. So this week at the Parliament, there was a private member's bill which called for the cessation of exports of plastic waste to overseas countries in an effort to get Canadians to really address our own solid waste issues. And ultimately, when it comes back to it, without diversion and increased recycling, we're going to have to replace our local landfill pretty quickly. And that's going to be a very painful exercise. Having said that, you know, I see there's been mixed support from our local MPs on Bill C-204. And I'm wondering if this is something that we could send to the Solid Waste Authority for their perspective of what the impact is, if indeed the shipping of plastic waste overseas were to be stopped, and what that would mean to our local communities.
Certainly, Councilor Dowie, I can bring that to the attention of our board, and for a response to come back to council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further new business? Deputy Mayor Becchetti.
Thank you, Mayor. Just an announcement. I just received an email this evening. I want to thank publicly a community leader that's submitted his retirement. Terry Lyons, the director of the Windsor Essex Catholic District School Board, at a special meeting this evening announced his retirement for July 31st, 2021. So we wish him all the best. And again, for his leadership and for all his ability to, you know, all the challenges that he's faced, even with COVID and whatnot, just wish him all the best, to him and his family.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward, Deputy Mayor. We'll make sure that a correspondence from the town reaches Mr. Lyons, and congratulating him on his retirement. Any further new business? All right, we'll move forward to a confirmatory bylaw, 3 readings to confirm the proceeding of our meeting this evening. Councilor Tonio, Councilor Altenhoff, all in favor? Oppose if any, that is carried. Any notices of motion, members of council? I see none. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, February 23rd. We have a 6 o'clock meeting on the Sears Drain. We also have a public meeting at 6:30, the South Talbot Holden Drain, and 7 p.m. will be our regular council meeting. If no further questions, comments at this stage, then adjournment is in order. Councilor Tonio and Councilor Altenhoff. Thank you very much, members of council, administration, and certainly our viewing audience for participating in our meeting this evening. And until we gather again on the 23rd, please stay safe. And I would say stay informed in terms of how our region will be progressing in the next week. And But we're far from out of the woods yet. The social distancing, the wearing of masks, and the public health requirements should be continued to be followed even on the onset of vaccination. We still got a ways to go. And the only way that we're going to open up the economy is if we pay attention and take care of each other. And so let's do that. All right. Good evening, folks.